What's going on, guys? Welcome. Here with us today, we have uh Fifth Ace, or Mr. Hex, as he is known. What's going on, Mr. Hex?
Oh, what's going on?
Nada. So a little bit about yourself. What do you do? How old are you?
I'm an
Where,
old man.
where are you located out of?
In Oklahoma.
Oh, okay. So center of the United States.
Yeah, center,
Cool.
very center, Tornado Alley. It's wonderful.
All right. No, I'm not back broadcasting from my bathtub tonight. Do I sound bad, guys? Welcome. I
No.
appreciate all of you. All right. So there we go. So as you guys can see in the background, you might see Blender up. This is going to be the new intro, and then it's going to hold right here with the cardboard castle. And
I didn't know you used Blender. That's what I use. That's what I use for. That's what I use for 3D printing and. Yeah, I've got you up on. I've got you up right now on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And I'm one of them.
can you hear me now?
Mm.
There we go. Now you guys can hear me on YouTube.
I can hear you.
All right. All right, beautiful. Welcome, guys. Welcome, everybody. Appreciate you all you guys coming out here today. And yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, we're ready. We're ready. We're working on it, guys. We're making magic happen. So I was just talking about how we are getting a new intro. That's what's up right now. That's what you see on the screen. And yeah, so here I'm gonna go and we'll make this to where we'll render it with material view. So boom. And here we'll play it. So but basically this is the new intro. It'll come from here on the portcullis. And it'll zoom out, and then it'll be the cardboard castle. And yeah, I don't know how. So here I want to bring this into frame, but I don't know how to do it. So it just is what it is while it's actually doing the render. But it's okay. We'll make it we'll make it work somehow. Moving where I'm viewing from, it shouldn't be that difficult. I don't know why it is. So but yeah, craziness, right? It is awesome. Yeah, so that's a thing. That's what we're going to be working on tonight. So guys, tonight we have a very thin topics list, unfortunately. We had some difficulties in getting things ready for tonight. So we're going to kind of be winging it a little bit, but the first thing of course we're going to go over is the Understanding War article for today and sort of talk about where we are and what's going on with Russia. Russia is facing some really big difficulties at the moment. For a lot of reasons, but we're going to talk about this. So, this has been a dead day in Ukraine for the most part. Russian forces haven't really made any major advances. They advanced somewhat around the Izium axis, but nowhere else. They lost a lot of ground to the Ukrainian counteroffensive in Kharkiv.
Yes, they did.
A lot, to the point where they only have 10 kilometers between them and the border with Russia. So we're going to talk about that a little bit and what that looks like. And as I was talking about before, them forming the horseshoe has been formed. And we're going to take a look at that really quickly. So direct your attention to this area around Kharkiv city, right? So remember when I told you that they were going to be pushing in to try to isolate this section of Russians off? Well, this area right here is no more than 10 kilometers. They've almost completed that encirclement, and there's about 6 BTGs that are combat ineffective that are trapped in this area, and another 3 here around the pincer. Excuse me, sorry. Around the pincer movement. Apparently, they fixed me being able to click on the. Holy Jesus, that's big. That's what she said. All right. That pincer movement, they've focused their last 3 BTGs that they have. Now there is a problem that they're going to be facing. So, they have decided to cede some of their territory down here around Kherson. The Ukrainian forces are still struggling to create an encirclement around this line. I mean, it's a very huge front right here down in the south. But what they're having to do is where they have been able to actually secure their advances down here around Luhansk and the lower area and around Mariupol, they're having to redeploy those BTGs, which there's about 19 of them, to answer this counteroffensive up here, right? And that's a problem for them. That is a big problem for them. So it's going really well. No action around Moldova. They have failed to get the Moldova breakaway regions to participate in the war. They have been trying to summon some forces there and create another front, but have been unsuccessful. There has been a change in the Russian chain of command. I can't, Rashmanov or Germanov, I can't remember his name. The original Russian general has actually been replaced. So Ukraine war. Really quickly looking into that. So Vornikov is the new Russian general, and he's one of the guys who was appointed. Now, we had talked about this earlier, that it was rumored that it would be changing to him, and he would be taking over the advances in the north and the east. And it seems that he has been now appropriated to run the entire war. And we'll bring that down here. This guy right here, he's also known as the Butcher of Aleppo. He is the person responsible for leveling Aleppo, the city in Syria. So he's about 60 years old, and he's just really fucking crazy. So, yeah, and the other general has been basically demoted to appearance only, right? So though he's in charge, so we'll see how it works out, but it's not looking good. Again, as you can see, really short ISW today. Like, there's just nothing going on. Just really nothing. Now here's the assessment around Kharkiv and what's going on with Kharkiv city. The Izium axis, they've been somewhat successful in around Rubzane. They're redirecting the BTGs that have been successful around here. They're going to basically move into defensive positions and hold where they're at. And they have to answer this counteroffensive in Kharkiv, because if Ukraine is able to make it to this little red line right here, they can literally shell Izium. And all of the positions that Russians have advanced and taken inside of Izium. So Russia has continued to try to encircle the forces right here in the center of the Donetsk Oblast, and has been unsuccessful. They have made some advances around Popsna, and they have basically taken control of the city. It seems that they are in full control of that city at this moment. But again, overall, just not going well for the Russians. They have continued to lose and cede ground, especially in the south, and to these counteroffensive positions. That's about all we have today for that, guys. So Russia not doing too well. That's the takeaway there. So, oh, what's up, Luna? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Dawood Films, welcome. A night in my hammock. Good to see you. Welcome, by the way. Welcome, welcome. Appreciated. Let me make sure everyone knows that we are live, and we'll keep on going. So,
Ukrainians made a really good push down by Kharkiv today.
they have. It's been that they are being very successful.
They're using a lot of anti-tank, and they're taking
Mhm.
out a lot of their mobile armor. And I was watching part of it today, and it was great.
Yeah, no, they have been very effective, especially with their infantry, and they've also had they've made good effective use of the howitzers that we sent them, the M777s, and they have a retarded amount of munitions.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
and now they have almost 400 soldiers fully trained on those systems. About 25% of those systems have made it to the Eastern Front now, and they are just hammering the Russians,
they
just
have those
hammering
new
them.
drones. They have the new drones as well, with the operators for the drones, trained operators for the drones that are for precision laser strikes,
Mm-hmm.
and they are utilizing them very well.
Well, they also have they have two of the, I think, 10 German artillery radars now, and
Mm-hmm.
also the artillery pieces that Germany has sent them. And I know that basically they can basically use those radars to find positions of any active missiles or artillery. And I need to stop saying so much. They can basically use those radars to detect other artillery pieces or missile systems such as the Buck or others, and focus fire on them. And it only takes about 2 minutes for them to get a good scan, about 120 seconds. After that, they can push those coordinates and targets and their locations out to the individual artillery units. Those artillery units can then dial in about 2 to 3 minutes max, and then start launching out fire within the next minute and just start laying shells. I mean, you basically, if you're Russia and you fire from a artillery or missile position, you have less than 6 minutes to move. That's very difficult when you can't set up positions and have those positions protected. And though Russia is running about 200 to 300 sorties a day in air power, they've been unable to target their artillery effectively. So it's not looking good for Russia, which is great news for us, because
Yeah,
I would prefer. Go ahead.
I was just going to make yeah. It's I don't know if you remember the old Sam hunters that they used back
Mm-hmm.
that they used to have. They were called the strikes.
Mm-hmm.
The radar system is basically the same. It's not so much a fire and forget now, but it's once they track that signal, it doesn't matter if they shut the radar down or not. It's locked.
Mm-hmm.
They can't get away from it. And like you said, they've
Yeah.
got just a few minutes to move, and even if they shut him, they're still a prime target, and it's going to find them.
Yep, absolutely. And now with the laser guided drones that have arrived, the U.S. has also started to send laser guided munitions to Ukraine, and that was announced. Not specifically what's there, but if you align the two, you can see that it seems like a coordinated effort to create the ability for them to laze targets and lay down effective fire on those targets using lasing systems uh, for those laser guided munitions that they're receiving, which is great. So this is you guys got to understand the military aid packages that have been put to Ukraine are the largest in history since World War II. All right, like we have sent
Hmm.
more arms, and that's adjusting for inflation, guys. We have sent the amount of military aid and military aid that we are sending, and this only counts things that are produced and are dedicated already, not things we're going to produce, is larger than any other military aid campaign we have ever launched in history.
Yeah,
So yeah.
and the coordination of all the countries that have come together to assist, quote assist Ukraine. has
Mhm.
been unbelievable. It's more than it's more than any other time. That I want to open a can of worms for you.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Now that the U.S. and all these other countries have openly thrown it out there that they are assisting Ukraine, what do you think Putin's final? What do you think his final objective is going to be with the threats that he's been given?
So I've
The use
been.
of nuclear arms.
This is one of the few places where I've been wrong. There was a running joke of like people were counting like my predictions and how often they became true, and it was a ridiculously high number, which I was shocked at. Right, even the best military analysts are only right about 70 to 80% of the time, like the best.
Hmm.
Um, this is one of the ones I was wrong on. I don't know if Putin has the political capital to extend his country's resources any further. And I think that if he were to launch a strike like that, the response he would get from the allies and from NATO would just be, I think, would be overwhelming, in my
Response.
opinion.
What kind of response do you think that they? What kind of response do you think would go up?
So if he were to launch a nuclear strike, right, a tactical nuclear strike against Ukraine, um, at that point, that's a red line that's been announced. So the use of chemical weapons or nuclear weapon has been announced as a red line by NATO, by America, and by Poland. I think you would see U.S. missile carriers launch large levels of long range guided missiles at specific targets in Ukraine. And I think you would basically see their entire anti air system be wiped off the map. And then probably F-18 sortie go in and wipe out large portions of their command and control structure.
So
That's what I think would happen.
you don't think there would be a retaliation with nuclear weapons,
No, I
right?
don't
You
think
think it'll be
I.
conventional?
No, it would be. We would definitely use conventional warfare. I don't. So we don't have. So Russia follows a military doctrine called escalate to de-escalate, right?
Hmm.
And the way you counter their military doctrine is you make it to where the next escalation is so extreme that they know that they would basically create the destruction of their own country.
Okay, so you're following along the same lines, just a longer way around it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Putin, when he first made the threats, my whole thought was, okay, he's threatening it, so people are going to back down because of course nobody wants to start Armageddon.
Yep.
But you have to also think, Putin is this is all about Russia,
Hmm.
and he has Putin loves his mother Russia, and that's what this is all about. And regardless of what he says, regardless how he does, Putin's not going to put you know Russia in jeopardy of being wiped off the map. He's not gonna do anything that's gonna cause such a military strike from everybody around him. That's just gonna it's gonna because Moscow would get destroyed, Berlin would be destroyed, or not Berlin, but Moscow would be destroyed. Red Square would be destroyed. There would be just there wouldn't be anything
Yeah.
left for him,
Now let me
and
be
he's
clear.
not gonna do that.
If he uses a large nuke or launches more than one tactical nuke, I could see possibly, and again, this is a large extension, guys. I could possibly see U.S. forces on the ground in Ukraine to basically just wipe out the threat and retake Crimea.
I don't think if he does actually launch a nuke, I don't think it's going to be a single launch towards Ukraine. I think it'll be a launch towards Ukraine. It'll be a launch towards the U.S. It'll be a launch towards.
No, I
Uh,
don't. I wouldn't know. I don't think that he would be that stupid,
I think.
right?
Well, that's just it. If he actually does launch, if he actually does engage with nuclear tactics, I think that's what he would, because he knows that fine line. If he launches one at anybody or Ukraine, that there's going to be
But
retaliation to it.
but
And
but the
so he
damage
would
is already
just get
done.
them all
So
out at once.
So maybe let me offer you a different perspective, right? So think about this. Okay, so maybe he knows he's losing in Ukraine anyways. He needs to wrap it up and he needs to make it look like a win, right? If he
Mhm.
nuked Kyiv, right? If he nuked Kyiv and Kyiv is wiped off the map, yeah, he loses the war. He was losing anyways. Okay? But now he can say this is an example of what happens when you defy Russia, right? You may have won the battles, but we won the war because in the end, we leveled your capital with a nuclear strike. A singular nuclear strike. And that message in and of itself will allow him to claim a win. He denazified Ukraine. He showed people that this is what happens when you defy Russia. And though there's now military forces in Ukraine, Ukraine is no longer has a viable capital. It's a nuclear fucking wasteland. Right?
Gotcha.
So
It goes back to what you said a while ago, though. But if
yeah.
he does that, there's going to be launches. There's going to be it may be conventional weapons, but they're going to launch it. We're going to us along with other NATO countries are going to make
we
sure
will,
that's the only launch he's going to get off.
yeah, we will remove his forces by force from other countries other than Russia.
Exactly, and so that's going to show. So where's that going to make him stand? Where he's going? Yeah, Ukraine, you defied us. We leveled you, but we got leveled in return.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So he knows that would be his last.
But it doesn't
military
matter.
tactic.
You've got your trophy. You got your trophy. You don't care about Donetsk and Luhansk, really. You just wiped Ukraine's capital off of the map with a nuclear strike.
But what did it cost you, though?
It doesn't matter. He can cover those costs up.
He loves
you know,
Russia so much, it's going to cost him part of Russia, and he's not.
I don't think it'll
cost that to happen.
It's not going to cost him part of Russia. It'll just they'll push us out. But we nuked their. We made an example of countries that would stand up to us, and no one is able to do it except for the U.S. And it shows that they're evil and that they're against us, right? And it solidifies and hardens the Russian people to allow him to continue his power and his hold of power, which is really all that. So Putin, he's driven by holding on to power and creating the external vision of Russia as a powerful and great nation, even if that's not actually true. It's just like the USSR, okay?
Right.
And he wants that to continue even after he's gone, okay? He thought that he would be able to create that vision through just a storming wind in Ukraine, win in Ukraine. And I think that he greatly underestimated his force's capabilities. I think people are paying with their heads. We know this for a fact. But at the end of the day, he needs a way to turn this into a win. And yes, they may have been able to take back control of their borders, but that was only after they no longer had to guard their capital because we wiped it off the map. And now countries know if you mess with us, we will retaliate and we will destroy your entire country, right? Because if you think about it, there's no Ukraine to be retaken in the areas that they have taken control of. I mean, they're bombed. Right, yeah. They're bombed out. They're bombed off the map. Yeah, they can have. Yes, we let them have it after we destroyed everything that was there. Right. We made the example.
I agree with your scenario. Yeah. I agree with your scenario.
I think he can turn it into a win at home, and I think that's more of what he cares about.
Well, now let me ask you the next question. Do you really think that it would be the U.S. that did the counterstrike?
No, we would definitely not allow that. We need a culpable deniability because we don't want to open declaration of war.
I think it would come down to Poland or UK or or NATO itself.
It couldn't be any country that has nuclear capabilities. It would be
to do a counterstrike.
Yeah, it would most likely be Poland. I mean, they're the only ones who have a capable military that do not have nukes. Right. So the problem is
it would be a country that has nukes to bat. That way, there's a second level to go to.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to hit a country that doesn't have nukes with nukes, right? Also, you got to think if it's Poland and he wants to respond, right? The Polish people and the Russian people kind of have a history with each other that has not benefited Russia, number one, but also in which Poland. It would be very difficult for him to justify an invasion of Poland, and it would be very difficult for him to justify a nuclear strike against Poland. And if he launched anything towards Poland, he would.
No, I don't mean him nuking Poland. I didn't mean it like that. I meant having the country that struck back, having nuclear capability just in case.
No, because I think that it gives them an excuse. They have.
Go ahead and.
They struck us now, and they have nukes. A nuclear strike will be next. We need to strike them first, right? You can't give them that excuse.
Right. By the way,
So,
you do know that Poland signed that agreement with UK today, or not?
which one?
Not Poland, Finland. I mean, I'm sorry.
Sign that agreement with the UK to host nuclear weapons there?
No, no, no. Finland. Finland's not meant Finland. Finland signed that for them to be basically they're out to become allies for
Yeah,
if anybody attacks Finland, that the UK will stand strong with them.
oh, so the security guarantees
Yeah,
for
the
joining
security
NATO.
guarantee. Yeah,
No, I knew about that. I announced that a few days ago. The security guarantee for
I might be a few days late, but
yeah.
I was reading it today that they had just signed it or just
Yeah, the UK joined in on it, but the US has already given Sweden and Finland security agreement.
yeah.
Because at some point, when and what I was saying with that is, at some point, it, there's a way where you can be attacking NATO indirectly, right? So if anybody who thinks about joining NATO, you then hit with a military response, that's the same as attacking NATO, because you're basically just attacking anyone who might be a part of NATO, which is crippling NATO's ability to grow or to be more expansive or inclusive. And so that's really striking NATO, right? You're hitting them, but you're doing it to hurt NATO and attack NATO, because you're limiting people's membership and making people scared to become members. So I always said that it was guaranteed that the U.S. and the U.K. would probably eventually put a stop to that, as they kept blustering. Um, yeah, it's crazy.
It
So,
is. It's just nuts over there. I
hmm
mean, I feel for all the people there. I really do, and I wish this thing would just come to an end.
hmm
I feel there. You know, I know there's a lot of Russians that are against it, and I know there's a lot of Russians that are brainwashed towards it, and there's some that are the old that just you know ignore it. But it's going to take a toll. It's taking a toll on Russia. It is taking a. People don't realize how much of a toll it is really taken on Russia, regardless of what they're saying with all the sanctions and everything that have been dropped and levied. It's Russia's paying a price for all this. They really are.
no,
And
absolutely.
I think once this is over, the Russian people are going to see it's going to really hit them hard. I think once this is over, it's really going to impact them more than it has already,
hmm
and people are going to open their eyes and see that it's this is going to be a real it's going to put a real economic downfall on Russia that's just going to be hard to return from.
No, absolutely, and that goes into our next subject of the night. That's in the leading. So basically, Russia is facing the worst recession since the fall of the USSR. Just need to take a second to do that. So, um, yeah, biggest economics collapse. This is here. It is. So 6 hour. Don't trust. So this is where I was talking about the ruble is being falsely manipulated, and Russia is getting hit a lot harder than people think it is, right? And we're not talking about that, guys. So if we talk about Russia facing, oh, you bastards, start free trial. Mother, the telegraph, stop. Let's see if I can beat it. Nope, we'll refresh. Stop. There we go. Ah, they fixed it. You used to be able to stop it if it didn't get far enough.
So you could pass
And
the
yeah,
paywall.
yeah. So you could pass the paywall. What's up, Dusel?
Good luck.
Um, and the telegraph again is paywalled now. So I'm trying to get to the uh to the telegraph piece, but we'll see here. Let's go to this
A
and
quick history. I don't know if you're old enough to remember, but back before the USSR fell, maybe before they had the collapse. I don't know if people remember that there used to be what they called bread lines in the USSR, and people would stand in line for days and days just to get small amounts of food to take to their families. And it's people don't when you try to explain the economical downfall and the collapse of just the social structure in Russia with that's happening.
Mhm.
People don't understand the way it used to be is how it's going to return. We're talking people standing in bread lines that are wearing rags. that are barely getting enough food to feed, one person, much less a full family.
Yep.
They're going to be making do on nothing. They used to stand in line to get all any type of toiletries. Anytime, I mean, if you had to get toilet paper, they would give you part of a roll or one roll. You
Mhm.
would get part of a half of a loaf of baked bread, or you didn't hardly get anything. And the people were suffering so bad. I mean, you see these third world countries that are suffering that we're sending food to and assisting, like, quote quote, just to say, I don't want to anything specific, but some of the countries in Africa that we sent food to and whatnot, it's worse than that. Just trying to give everybody an idea of how bad this economical downfall is going to be on people over
Yeah.
there. It's hard to imagine unless, but I'm old enough. I remember seeing all those bread lines and remember reading about them and seeing them on the news and so forth. And it's heartbreaking to think that that's what they're headed for again. But it's happening.
No, absolutely. So big. So it came from Bloomberg. So Russia's economy faces biggest contraction in decades. So the contraction that they're gonna have is right here. I was hoping that they would link to the actual article, but you'll see that right here. Right here is the fall of the USSR, and it took till about 1994 for the actual fall of the USSR to hit them fully. They are facing their largest. So this is 92. This is 94, right? They're facing their largest contraction in their economy in years, right? So we will see what their so the finance so 2022 Russian Finance Ministry forecast contraction. Russian economy GDP facing worst contractions tonight. That's Bloomberg. Here it is. All right, here we go. Found the original article that I wanted, and of course ads. So GDP can shrink up to 12% on sanctions, and when he's talking about those bread lines, guys, like bread lines. This is what he's talking about. This happened in modern history, guys. This is 1994. Like red lines, just queues everywhere just to get basic supplies. Lack of toilet paper, right? Like toilet paper was a major commodity because they didn't have a way to produce it, and there were accidents that happened, wiping out large groups of people because they would overload planes that had went on overseas trips and things with resources. And there was one instance in which they had loaded up with so many resources that it made the plane unbalanced and literally caused it to crash because it had when the plane went to go lift, there was so much weight in the back as it started that all of it rolled backward and made it lift like that and caused it to literally just dive. um it's insanity. um let's see. I mean, it's just all this stuff, just crazy. They also had lines like that in 1987. Oh, here it is. I literally was talking about it. Toilet paper shortages in the Soviet Union. Like basic things, guys. There's a lot of things that the USSR just does not make. Um, it's nuts.
It was
So
sad to see. These pictures are, I mean, they're true pictures. They're pictures I've seen before. There's pictures that were on the news, and these are the better ones that they're showing you. These aren't
this,
some of the ones that you see in some of the poverty, the more uh, impoverished, neighborhoods, and some of
yeah,
the,
these are
like back
major
in the background
cities.
of the
Yeah,
one you see the McDonald's back there. There wasn't anything like that and some of them were, some of the lower neighborhoods or some of the more uh people were fighting just over breadcrumbs
mhm.
amongst each other, and people were
Yeah, this
would
where they were
robbing
actually
house
fighting.
people boarded up houses because they were afraid their neighbors were going to come steal what little food they had.
Yep. These are breadline fights that had happened in
Yeah.
1994. So, yeah, they there would commonly be fights. There were basically they would post up soldiers outside of the bread facilities. If you lived in rural areas and didn't have transportation or just lost everything and you couldn't afford to get to one of these, you starved to death. It was very sad.
And they
Um,
didn't care. There wasn't, I mean, it wasn't, it was not that they didn't care, I should say. but there wasn't nothing anybody could do about it.
Yep. Nope. Absolutely. It was
And
just
that's the sad line that it's headed to. And I just wanted everybody to get the idea, to see that and get the idea of where things were headed, so they could have a, at least a little bit of a mental picture of what they're getting ready to go through over there.
no, absolutely. And we won't know it, right? We're not gonna know it.
Yeah,
We will.
we're not gonna see it this time like we did last time.
Yeah, he will cover it up. He's not gonna let people see that things are going badly for
Like North
them.
Korea.
Yeah, like North Korea,
Exactly.
basically. Yep. Were you guys did any of you guys see the interview? I think is what it was called, where they basically were going to
Yeah.
assassinate. Yeah, like remember that fake store? That's actually based off a real situation that happened in Russia, where there was a fake store and it was the only store that foreign diplomats and media were allowed to go to, right, to buy food and stuff, and it was always perfectly stocked. And so what had happened is there was part of the store that you really couldn't get to that was sort of cordoned off, but it looked like it was full, and it was reserved for the Russian residents. Foreigners, you can be over here, and but we need to make sure our best stuff goes to our people, and it was all fake. It was all fake. So it's crazy, and now that's what they're coming up on. I just don't know what he does. Like, I don't understand. I don't get how. So as the Russian people start to feel this more and more and more, I don't know how he's going to hold on to power, right? Because he's clearly responsible. He ordered it. He has to find some out and then recover from the economic damage, or he's going to be in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble. I think that and I think that's why he's not expanding his war effort, because I don't think he has the political capital, as I was saying, to expend to do it. Because I think people already know, and people around him already know, that Russian people are going to suffer. They're already suffering just by the losses of their jobs, people who worked in foreign companies, things like that. I think people are going to continue to blame him more and more and more. It's going to be interesting to see. Let's check chat and see what people are
And
saying.
as more and more the higher ups, the oligarchs lose their money and have their money frozen, their assets frozen.
Mm-hmm.
The more and more that happens, the more and more the people closest to him are going to start falling away. But the thing about him is he's kind of like, and I hate to bring this up, but Hitler gained power and kept power because he could talk. He knew how to talk to the people. He knew how to push the buttons to the people. He was, he could. For lack of better words, right at the moment, he's got a silver tongue when it comes to talking to his people.
Yeah, he's a great
And
orator.
that's what I mean. Putin has held power for a long time, and he's held it in without going to the extremes that some of the other dictators, presidents, whatever you want to call it, have held it. He hasn't. Saddam committed genocide on his own people. He committed mass murders. He held power he held authoritarian power by force.
Mm-hmm.
He killed anybody. He would execute people. He would execute civilians. It didn't matter. Putin hasn't had to do that. He hasn't had to go to those extremes. I'm not saying he hasn't done it at all, but he hasn't had to go to the extremes that some of the others have. But he knows how to control the people through voice, through words.
Yeah, no, he's a great orator and a great speaker.
Yeah, and I think regardless of what happens at the war, it may be hard on him to retain the power, but I think if he had to, he would be able to. And that's the real worry about it. Because if this ends and he retains power and he stays in power, that's where it's going to get severely bad for the people.
I agree, and he's already known, like, what he did in Navalny, and the Russian opposition is, like, if you guys aren't familiar with the story of Navalny, you should really check it out. They basically, he had become very popular with the people. Navalny had started up basically an opposition party, and it looked like it was possible that he would be able to challenge Putin in an election. And so he entered. They tried to kill him when he was in Germany. He went to the hospital. It was found that he had been exposed to basically a nuclear isotope that has been used in Russian assassination attempts before. and they went and got him fixed up and everything, and he flew back to Russia for some reason after this. And upon landing in Russia, he was immediately seized, arrested, and brought up on charges for embezzlement and some other things, and tax evasion and all types of stuff. And they created basically an app to help expose Russian corruption and waste and abuse. And Russia has been trying to force Google and Apple to remove this, and also to enforce Russian requirements on the App Store, not being able to post anything anti-Russian, etc. But he's really the leader of the opposition. He was coming up on the end of his sentence, and they brought him up on new charges again and just sentenced him to another 15 years after his sentence is already completed. Yep. The previous, Little Hugh has it right. So Little Hugh says Navalny took over the opposition when the previous opposition guy was assassinated. And yes, that is correct. And Navalny was rich in his own right. He didn't have to put his neck out there. He wasn't motivated by what normally motivates people. But he's now locked away again. It looks, and there have also been a few Russian editors and chiefs and other people that have been arrested at I forget what it is, I think the Voice of Moscow or other places like that. And it's very interesting how that works, because he basically disappears anybody, or if he can't disappear them because they're too publicly viewable, he just locks them away, trumps up charges. And it seems that there wasn't a lot of evidence to support the things Navalny was charged with. So it's insanity. It's insanity. But here you can see Russia issues warning to Google and Apple over Kremlin critic Navalny's app. And this was just literally yesterday. A media regulator has warned that Western IT titans might face criminal charges if they do not comply with Russian legislation. Parliamentary elections are set to take place later this month, with almost all strong Kremlin critics, including Alexei Navalny's friends, prohibited from standing. He's also prohibited anybody who's associated with the opposition party from running for office. So you can vote, but you can only vote for Mother Russia. Yeah.
You vote for only for these people.
Yeah. And so they're saying they're going to consider not blocking the app as interference in Russian elections, right? And fining them millions and millions of rubles. They use closed courts, and they don't allow access to prisoners. One of the biggest thing, Navalny's team complained that they have been unable to talk to him or prepare their cases or anything. They basically have to show up the day of, talk to their client, and start trying a very long case, and they're not given the evidence except just maybe a day or so before the trial. I mean, it's hundreds of thousands of pages of documents and other things like that, most of which don't really have anything to do with the accusation at hand. It's crazy. So regulatory,
it wouldn't matter if they were allowed to prepare for it or not. It's still not going to do any good.
It's a monkey court. It's a kangaroo court. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's just for show.
It's just for show, to give the appearance of some form of fairness. Excuse me, guys. Hold on. I apologize. 1 second. Okay. My mother doesn't usually. Oh, just want you to know your grandfather's in the ER. He has a double kidney infection. The meds the doctor prescribed won't be available for 2 weeks at any pharmacy there. His body is resisting all of the meds, so his urologist told him to go to the ER immediately. On top of it, he's been urinating blood. Try to make your way here if you can. Things aren't looking good. He's...
Say your grandfather?
Yeah.
Man, I am so sorry to hear that.
All right.
I think you need to go.
No, it's fine. It can't do anything right now.
You sure?
Yeah. I'm good. It's all the way down in Louisiana. It's It's not here.
Oh,
I
geez.
Okay.
yeah,
I'm sorry. I was
I
thinking it
can't.
was.
I'm in Concordia. He's in Louisiana. There's nothing I can do
Okay,
at this
I didn't
very
realize
moment.
that. Well, still, I
It's all
apologize
good.
for.
No,
I
it's
hate to hear
fine.
it, man. I really do hate to hear that, and I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry. I should have muted my mic. All right.
No, you're
So,
fine. You're fine. Just
um, all right. I mean, I get it, man. I mean, the Russian GDP and the Russian economy is going to come crashing down and people are going to suffer. But I just don't know how he loses power. And I think that the whole point is he wanted to find something to sort of show a new win, to show a new amount of strength for Russia, right? To create, because that's really what's held him in power. In the early 2000s, Putin really was known because he sort of reined in the oligarchs and sort of made them serve the Russian people. Really, they were serving him, but the Russian people. And Russian people's lives got better, and they directly attributed that improvement in their quality of life to him, right? And so, at the end of the day, he needs that again. He needs to find, every few years he's been looking for some type of win of how he's keeping Russia protected, how he's increasing, Russia's importance on the world stage. And
Does it have to do with the World
yeah,
Cup also when they did 2016?
yeah, they did the 2016 World Cup, the Olympics, everything. So he's held on to power by just keeping his hold on power increasing over time. And he needs that new win, and he expected Ukraine to be that new win, and he's got himself in a quagmire. So he can't keep up things like what he's done with Navalny and the opposition and banning them and everything else. And it's sending people to high security gulags like Milikovo when the man's not accused of any major crime like violent, but he's getting sent to a high security gulag colony in the middle of nowhere. He's not going to be able to continue to do this. He has to create a win for himself. He has to get people to stop questioning his authority and come back to the table. So, it is what it is. Well, it sounds like so. Jay the Giant Peach says, "Well, sounds like he's got good job security." Little Who says Putin also bankrolls his opposition candidate that he puts forward, so it looks like a democracy, but actually isn't. Yeah. So they also have controlled opposition, right? Where it appears there's this opposing party that's against them, that they're running and it's a fair and free election, but really it's controlled opposition. They have full control of the opposition, the propped up opposition that's running against him. And then he just wins, and it's great, and Russia has decided again to blah 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 blah.
yeah.
Welcome back, Luna. Welcome back.
I have another series or another little pop question here for you to put you on the spot.
What's up?
There's been several leaders of Russia that have been bad and tired and whatnot, but one stands out in everybody's mind that so with the tactics that were used by this by another dictator of Russia versus Putin. I'm gonna. So what do you see? What are the similarities and dissimilarities between Stalin and Putin?
Stalin had an economy to back up his
Yep.
his hunger for power, right? I mean, so guys, Stalin was a horrible person. He murdered millions of his own people through starvation tactics and other things like that and punishments. But Stalin had much more even footing on the world stage as far as production and GDP and an economy. And there was a great example of this where you see like a running graph of like the GDP and military spending of countries, and it goes up and down, and it covers like almost 100 years. The USSR had a comparative economy output to the US. Today's Russia has a comparative economy output to California. Like their GDP, not their governmental budget, just their GDP is less than California. So I'm not sure how they could stand on that stage. Money allows them to maintain a larger military force, larger police, larger KGB, RGB, and it will be very difficult for them to continue down the path that they're on, right? Because at the end of the day, he doesn't have the money to do it. Stalin had the money and the wherewithal to be able to do it, and the production output to say, fuck the world, I don't care what consequences there are. And at the same time, everybody didn't have a camera in their hand as they do today. So you could go and kidnap an entire family and kill all the witnesses and no one would know, right? And there's evidence that that happened. But you can't do that today. There's no way you would be able to effectively do what Stalin did to hold and maintain power today. I just don't think it's possible. As far as his tactics, listen, Putin's ruthless, but he's smart, and he's smart enough to know that you can't wipe out half your population. He knows that he has to basically win over a majority of the population to the point where so many people are on his side that the people who aren't are unvocal minorities because they're scared of the consequences. And he needs to maintain that last part, scared of the consequences. And so he makes sure that the things he does are sort of clandestine, right? To create that fear that it's rumored that he's responsible, but no one really knows. Stalin didn't care. Stalin would send his Gestapo after you, right? And I
Right,
forget
the
the
only
term
difference
they
is
used,
that
but
Stalin did it, where Putin's just the threat of it.
I don't think so. I think if you look at it, like what happened, okay, guys. I just want in the last 2 months, 3 Russian oligarchs have been killed in the exact same way, and their families killed in the exact same way through murder, suicides, through stabbings. Okay. Now it could entirely be a coincidence, but if you believe that it's a coincidence, it must be aliens, guys. It must be aliens. I got a bridge in Brooklyn. I want to sell you it for a great deal. Like, I'm sorry, there's no way that's coincidence. All 3 of them decided to commit murder, suicide, and kill their families, and then off themselves in the same manner with the same MO. Nah. There's no fucking way. There's no way, man. So we shall see. But I think that Putin is much more clandestine about what he does, but he does execute on his threats.
I think that's why I brought this up on the similarities between the way they ruled, is because of that, and because of the starvation tactics, and
Well, he just
because
does it
that's where
behind
it's
the
headed.
scenes. He just does it behind the scenes, and there's no way in modern day that he could starve entire villages or entire cities of people without someone finding out, right? The whole camera, everyone has a camera in their hand thing comes back into play, really. So,
Well, but it's like he's got the people right now are so shut off from the world that what's it going to matter if people have a camera in their hand? Nobody's going to see it.
yeah, but we see stuff leaking out of Russia. Like, you
We
think
might
that he
see
wanted the
stuff leaking
world.
out of Russia, but I mean,
Listen, the Russian people have been dealing with informational controls for so long. They know if they really want the truth, they'll go and they'll find it out, right? If they hear about Russian cities starving, that's going to be like, hey, that could be me. I wonder if that's true. And you're going to put in the effort. Right now, Russians are so tired of the misinformation and disinformation they receive and having to go out and work to find the truth that they just accept what they're told. And if you eventually you just hear it and you just take it with a grain of salt. But if you keep hearing something over and over and over again, it eventually affects you and your perception on the world, even if you knew initially it was untrue. It's how echo chambers work. So I think that in those instances where it's something that could actually affect them versus it's Russia fucking with somebody outside, right? I think that their motivations will be different. That's my opinion. Go ahead.
so how far? Now, my next question.
Oh my
So
God.
how far do you think Putin is willing to go to hang on to his power when when the war's said and done?
So it's been well known within the intelligence community that Putin's problem with letting go of power has been one consistent thing. And it's that Putin does not feel anyone else will be able to protect him once he's out of power, right? And that he could be offed by someone who no longer wants to deal with him having a hand or meddling in political affairs. And he is very paranoid about this, right? So I think that Putin sees it as if he lets go of power, he's dead. And this has been reinforced by internal discussions and other uncovered communications and other things and people who provide us intelligence. And this is just a well-known narrative around Putin. So I think he'll do whatever it takes, the same as if it was someone trying to kill him, right? He'll do whatever it takes to preserve what he sees as a threat to his life. Period. So, all right, let's see if there's let's check VC chat. All right, and Jay the Giant Peach says, I can't hear you anymore in YouTube. I don't know what happened. I was at 724. Okay, nope, we fixed that already. Okay. Ukraine news podcast subjects. Let's see. All right. Bam. Russia pulled all rocket carriers to the borders of Ukraine. Massive rocket attacks expected. So this is what I was talking about. We're providing them the ability to sort of counteract Russian artillery and rocket systems. Guys, with the new artillery systems that we provided them, as long as they can protect them, right? And they can protect those radars. Go ahead. Russia's is just about to lose a lot of missile systems. The moment that they fire something, their position is going to be known, right? And as soon as we know those positions, they're screwed. They are screwed. It's that simple. So, yeah, 1320.
Yeah, they're about to lose a lot of missile launchers.
They're about to lose a lot of missile launchers. That's what the fuck's about to happen. So, I mean, I think that's a miscalculation. You want to have what you need in theater, not anymore, and have what you need to replace what's in theater on standby outside of the theater. You don't want to overextend your forces or place all of your forces into the line of fire, because then you can't reconstitute them because you don't have any more. And it takes time to build these things. So,
yeah, you just don't pop 100 out overnight.
Oh man. So guys, new development literally a minute ago. CNN obtained graphic surveillance video showing Russian forces shooting Ukrainian citizens. Hold on, I need to Oh man, what? Hold on. We're gonna
forces have freed some villages around Kharkiv amid
Yep.
signs of a Russian retreat.
It's
in
4
that
minutes and
area.
50.
Recapturing
Yes, we
the
talked
battered
about
area
this.
would be a significant accomplishment
There's
for
their
Ukrainian
they'll be
forces.
blowing up
There
T90s,
remain
the
signs that Russians
Pride
are
breakthrough
gathering nearby
Russian tank.
for a counteroffensive. We're also
Yep.
getting new details of the Russians' horrifying
Russians are pulling
behavior
back,
in
of course.
areas near Kyiv
Here we
that they
go.
once occupied, but since left. We need to warn you that this report by CNN's Sarah Seidner
Let's see
contains
this.
pictures that you will likely find disturbing.
This is a stark example of a potential war crime perpetrated by Russian forces. An example the world has not yet seen: Russian soldiers shooting 2 civilians in the back. CNN obtained the surveillance video taken from this vehicle dealership that sits along the main highway to Kyiv. The video is from the beginning of the war, as Russians tried and failed to shell their way to the capital. The fight along this road was
Holy
clearly
shit.
fierce. But what happened outside this business was not a battle between soldiers or even soldiers and armed civilians. It was a cowardly, cold-blooded killing of
That's
unarmed
crazy,
men
y'all.
by Russian forces. The soldiers
Well,
show up and begin breaking
proof
in.
of war crimes.
Inside of a guard shack, 2 Ukrainian men prepare to meet
Just
them.
more evidence,
We
yeah.
track down the men's identities. One is the owner of the business, whose family did not want him named. The other was hired to guard it.
My father's name is Leonid Alexeyevich Platz.
Humanity of Russian soldiers. But unfortunately, they have no humanity.
You see the 2 men walking in the shadows toward the camera. Behind them, the soldiers they were just talking to emerge. A few more
Shoot
steps,
them.
and their bodies drop to the ground.
They used
Dust
automatic fire
shoots
to
up
shoot
from
them
the
too.
bullets, hitting the pavement. The soldiers have opened fire. Minutes later,
They
the
fired
guard,
one last shot
Leonid, gets
towards
up,
that one.
limping but alive.
Damn.
He manages to get inside the guard booth to make a call to the local guys for help. This is one of those guys, A Ukrainian truck driver.
That's crazy,
turned
guys.
civilian soldier.
All right. That's fucking nuts. Russia will still deny it. This guy has a valid point. That is flipping nuts, guys. I'm sorry for those who weren't warned beforehand. I don't mean to show graphic things to you and trigger you or anything, but I wanted to see what they were talking about there. That is fucking crazy. That is evil. They are they are having the trial of the first Russian soldier to be tried for killing civilians. That was posted up on Twitter a while ago. They're offering 2-for-1 Russian deals. So if they're willing to let go of people in Astoval, they are willing to give them 2 Russians for every 1 Ukrainian. Today also, I mean, around Donbass alone, Ukraine repelled 9 Russian attempted attacks. Russia's just, they're getting in slugouts that they can't do, and Russia would be wise to do prisoner exchanges, call a ceasefire to allow them to reconstitute their forces, abide by that ceasefire, and allow Azov out of Mariupol. Russia has some very key things that it could offer Ukraine that they would want, and that they know that they would want, that would buy Russia the time they need to reconstitute their forces. And that would probably be in Russia's best interest, but I'm not sure that Putin will swallow the pill offered to him, right? Because he's just too full of himself. I'm starting to consistently think that Putin has this absolute need and desire to be seen as powerful and as the savior of Russia. And he sees it as key to him holding on to power and staying alive. And that was a great question earlier when we talked about what would Putin be willing to do to hang on to power, and why he hangs on to power. Because he sees it as an existential threat to his life if he doesn't have power. So how do you address that? And it really explains a lot of his behaviors if you really think about it, right? Everybody went AFK. All right. Oh, okay. Barely hear you, Juice.
You can't hear me?
I can hear you now. Yep.
Okay, great.
Right. So let's see. So Zach said that's a horrific video. Assuming that's the one I think. I never watched it, just read about it. Yeah. I'm looking for it, but they said they were trying the first person to be tried for killing civilians. I saw the Twitter post a while ago. I don't remember the kid's name, but it's a young buck too. Ooh.
Do you see the one they found in Bucha? They found who it was because he wrote his Instagram handle on the wall.
Oh my God!
One
Yeah.
of the rooms. Yeah.
Guys, so here's the thing: if you're going to commit war crimes, 1, don't commit war crimes, and 2, don't record them or write down your social media handles. Probably best for you. But go back to number 1, so you don't ever have to worry about number 2. We'll see. Personally, I'd like to see this exchange proceed until SecNev answers some of these apparent discrepancies saved by the clock. Oh yeah, the Navy budget. We'll talk about that some other time. So also Ukraine, Poland has started equipping Ukraine with modern assault rifles, which are called the MSBS Grot, which are 5.56 military grade assault rifles, which means they have most likely gas piston systems, not mechanical, and they're called the C-16A2s, but they basically have gas systems, not mechanical systems. They have full Picatinny rail systems.
Rails.
Yep, Picatinny rails and all that good stuff, and they have automatic fire selectors, which they're basically like a cheaper version of the M4 carbine. but they're really good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say that. Let's see. What is this about?
Is the AK gas operated?
Oh my God. Oh, okay. Another breaking thing, guys. I need to, 1 second. Let me. Okay. It's the Washington Times. They're a reputable source. So we're going to show it. So guys, way back when I said, when you look at the sequence of the COVID virus, okay, it looks like it could possibly have been engineered and not naturally occurring. So the DIA today, and again, this is from them. I'm just reading from them. This is not my opinion. I'm not sharing an opinion. I'm sharing an article by the Washington Times, a known source that is known to be credible, quoting and talking about what the DIA talked about, talking about how intel suggests the COVID virus was lab engineered. I'm not saying it was or it wasn't. I want to be very clear. Army Lieutenant General Scott Bierre, director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, revealed in a prepared Senate testimony this week that some U.S. intelligence agencies not identified by name believe the virus behind the COVID-19 pandemic may have been genetically modified in a laboratory and not transmitted naturally from an animal host in China where it was first identified. Limited but fragmentary information on the virus origin led to multiple theories of virus origin among 17 agencies that make up the U.S. intelligence community. Guys, I try to shy away from this subject, but this is too much for me not to cover it. So way back when this happened and they first sequenced the genome, you could see what looked to be apparent splices because there are occurrences of basically the T types. There's two of them and they have letters, right? And there's certain occurrences that just don't happen naturally. And we're not going to get into the in-depths of the science. But I said it looked very interesting because there were types where the pairs occurred next to each other that normally don't happen, right? And there are only so many because viruses aren't the most genetically complex organisms in the world. That would be us, by the way.
You can try to guess the. That's why we can most likely guess the flu virus and make a vaccine every year, just because we can guess it's predictable. Kind of.
Yep, because there's only so many pairings and only so many mutatable regions for it to have mutations. And there's only so many outcomes because, again, certain pairs do not ever occur next to each other. But General Barrier, without elaborating, said most agree that it was not genetically engineered. That suggests more than one intelligence agency has information pointing to the COVID virus still spreading worldwide as continuing human-produced genetic modifications. That's a totally different subject. It was the first time a government official disclosed on the record declassified intelligence indicating the coronavirus behind the epidemic, not the modern versions, not the Delta, not Corona, none of that stuff, guys. I mean, not Delta, not Omicron. I didn't mean to say Corona. Omicron was a blessing, by the way, guys, because it shouldn't have actually. It was a genetic anomaly, and it has helped us greatly to create greater immunity throughout the populace without huge detrimental effects to as badly as the Delta virus had against our population. So the DIA's National Center for Medical Intelligence is the most forward-leaning within the U.S. government circles in asserting the virus came from a Chinese laboratory. You know, maybe why can't I think of his name? He got he used to be on Comedy Central. Why can I not think of his name? Famous comedian. Loved him to death. Jon Stewart. Maybe Jon Stewart wasn't that far off of it. It's crazy. Guys, so you have impingement. Okay, so really quickly, I'm looking at my chat. So little who said we will. I don't think he will trade POWs for Azov Battalion. He wants them gone. That's like his only plausible victory over the quote unquote Nazis. Understood. Let's see. We can talk about that in a second. Zach 6, yes, the AK is gas op. So the AK is not always gas operated. There's two different types of systems, right? You have gas operated, and impingement. Now, all of them use gas to force the bolt back, the explosion, the gases from the explosion, but one has tubes and another one doesn't, right? And when you're using the force from a round being fired, it basically kicks the bolt back, and that bolt churns. When the bolt gets kicked back by the explosion, there has to be enough force in that chamber to push the bolt back, okay? And another round comes up, and then the bolt slides forward and pushes it into the chamber, okay? So that kickback is important. Harnessing it so you don't have a ton of recoil is also important. But gas systems basically feed back the gas into the bolt carrier and push it back into basically a buffer. But they're able to gas systems can fire faster, okay? Mechanical systems are more reliable. That's the usual definition. There's some exceptions there, but it's crazy.
Is that why you can, if you weak wrist like a handgun, if you weak wrist it, it can't fire like jam because it doesn't have enough not recoil, but like stoppage to push the bolt back from the round?
No, if that round explodes in the, which is what it is, it's exploding. If that round, basically you have a strike, you have a pin, a firing pin, and it strikes the bottom of the round, and the round has a strike cap, and that strike cap causes a detonation. And when that detonation happens, right, of the propellant that shoots the freedom pew downrange, right? That is always going to provide enough force if the firearm is properly designed to cause the slide to go all the way back, and the firing assembly, the bolt assembly, to go back and load another round. What can happen is friction, right? So your firearm isn't well oiled enough or isn't cleaned well enough. Yeah. Now he's talking about hang fire. Oh, so that's when the sear doesn't. Okay, so the bolt on most semi-automatics, okay, when you pull the trigger on a semi-automatic, the sear has a bump on it, okay, that catches this little rut like this. So basically, this assembly, the trigger removes this, right, and releases it. So this goes forward, hits, strikes, explosion happens, gets kicked back, catches the rut again, right? When you have an automatic weapon, you hold down the trigger, it keeps that sear down, so it just does this repeatedly and never gets caught. With semi-automatics, when you pull the trigger, it removes it for a second and it automatically pushes it back up, even if you're holding down the trigger. So that way it only fires one round at a time. Hang fire happens, like where it just keeps going, right? Because the sear never resets. So if you're talking about like where you're bump firing, that's because you're not holding it so that the recoil doesn't stop it from moving, and the weapon is moving itself, so you keep pressing the trigger. Okay? So,
Okay.
yeah.
So it has that.
You're really breaking up, man.
movement.
Are you on your phone right now, or?
Yeah. Give me a second.
Okay.
I need to go and
Good.
fix this.
You have to stop thinking if you look at how a semi like a handgun is made, the slide on those things have a very high pressure spring on them.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever tried to load a shell into one and you pulled the slide back to load the shell in, you know how heavy and hard how much pressure it takes to pull the slide back. That's because of that spring. That spring
Mhm.
is there for one reason. It's not to pull. It's not just to bring the slide back forward. But that spring is a recoil compensator for the amount of pressure that shell when the primer struck and that shell fires, the amount of pressure on the amount of kickback pressure, because that explosion out of that shell is being forced down a small tube behind the projectile. A lot of it's going to go, so it's going to go backwards, and if that spring wasn't there, it would throw that slide off at you every time. That spring is more than just to bring the slide forward and to help load the next shell in. It is actually to keep that slide from being blown off the back of the gun by the amount of pressure that is generated in that barrel.
Yeah. Yeah. That so
So
Zach
there's
6.
not
Yeah,
gonna
and
be a
the AR.
lack of-
That's the
there's not
buffer.
gonna be a lack of there's
Mhm.
not going to be a lack of gas pressure to push the slide back.
No, never that. Dual feeding has to do with sometimes you get magazines that have too much spring pressure when they're fully loaded. There's multiple reasons for that.
Yep.
So but that's usually the most common for like a dual feed. There's a lot of things that can go wrong with firearms, guys. And we're gonna move onward. We can get into the deepest like ruts here, man.
Oh yeah, you can.
Animation and VC chat. Thanks, the Fire Geek. I appreciate it. If you guys want to understand more about firearms, I will gladly create a firearms channel, or we can have a discussion in general. And go ahead.
There's a channel on YouTube. I forgot the name of it, but it shows like animations of how different firearms work, and it has like a X-ray view that shows like what happens when the round is ejected and stuff like that. I forgot what the name of the channel was, but there's one like that that explains like different types.
Yep. So this is a great animation. I need to open the original. So basically here you see that this is basically the sear pin, that thing that keeps coming upward every time it comes forward. Now you see this piece right here that's catching the sear from that's catching the sear when it gets pushed back down, right? So this comes up, hits the strike pin, this slides back, exactly what I was just talking about, hits the strike pin, that slides back from the explosion, and this piece right here stops it from doing it again. Now there's obviously a catch that's happening here on this little bottom rut piece, but it's fine. This is an AR-15 specifically. What you can do is you can modify the trigger, right? So that this piece right here automatically releases again while this spring is held down. That's how you get automatic fire. You can modify this spring assembly in an AR. Now in a handgun, it's simpler, okay? And that's what I was describing at the end there was about a handgun. They're two different things. This is a complex spring system that controls this, and the way you make an AR automatic is by modifying this this spring assembly. It's also illegal as fuck in the U.S. Don't go
That's
messing
right.
around. Like do not modify your trigger assemblies. Okay, it is illegal as shit. It is a felony. It is a firearm felony, which means it makes it a federal felony. You will do fed time in a federal prison. Do not fuck with that.
You can't even use bump stocks.
If you bought them before the ban, you're not allowed to use them anymore?
Nope.
Oh shit.
Oh.
I didn't know that. So guys, there was these things that used to be sold in the back of like Popular Mechanics and stuff, which were drop-in slides. Okay? Having one of those by a firearm. Okay? So they were meant for AK-47s. Having a drop-in slide, even if it's not in the weapon itself, having it in the same location, close to the firearm, in proximity to the firearm where it could be inserted, is a federal felony. Like, they do not play about this. So though we're talking about how firearms work, do not try to modify the trigger mechanisms on your firearms. Even doing so, even attempting to modify them or having them modified, even if it doesn't make them automatic, can be considered a federal felony through attempt, right? So don't do it. It's a bad idea. We're going to move on.
Yeah, because it's a very touchy subject because there's so many things that you can do or try or that just will get you in a lot of trouble just by if you've got a firearm, leave it the way it is.
Yeah.
Leave it the way it was manufactured.
Like,
Don't try to modify it.
Like, I was an armorer in the United States military, so I know how these things work. I know what they do. I was responsible for fixing weapons in the field, right? And also for fixing them when they were in my firearms room. I was certified on every weapon from individual use up to what's called crew serve. Like, I'm very familiar with these, but I have to be very careful what I say and what I do. Like, you can get in a lot of trouble. Do not mess with your firearms. Leave them how they are. Unless you have an FFL and you're trained, right? And that's a whole nother subject for another time. So I just wanted to be clear there. I don't want anybody to get any ideas. Don't get in trouble. The feds don't play about guns, guys.
We don't want to lose viewers.
Yeah,
Getting in
yeah.
trouble.
That's the disclaimer. Yeah, that's absolutely the disclaimer, because I'm sitting here talking about, this is how guns become automatic. I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea. I am not telling anyone to modify your firearms, period. Do not do it. Let's see. So it says North Korea had an outbreak of Omicron, which is why they did the lockdown. Understood. AK for the gas block. Yes, it is. And there's newer versions that don't have wood and do it differently. But yeah. And guys, so when you hear people talking about the AR-10, right? So the AK-47 uses 7.62 and the AR-15 uses 5.56, but the AR-10 uses 7.62, which is actually a Russian round natively that goes in the AK. And the platform, when you hear people talking about the AK platform or the AR platform, it's how the receiver, the bolts, and the trigger assembly work together that makes up the platform. Some prefer the AK platform. So the AK platform, you can drag it through dirt, mud, whatever, but it's very forgiving to abuse, right? But it's really inaccurate, okay? Now, the AR platform, in comparison, is not very forgiving to being dirty and just being abused as a firearm, but it's pretty damn accurate, okay? So there we go. The Fire Geek said, be back unloading groceries. You gonna share, bro? You gonna share? So, all right, guys. Well, it's been a really slow day. Not a shit ton of news. Some things happened while we were here. We talked about where things are. Not a lot's happening on the front lines. Things are pretty stable. Not a lot in world news either. I mean, if we go to ground news, I mean, you'll see, or let's go to news.google.com. Let's use some mainstream media sources. I mean, there's some cool stuff about votes and, you know, the Roe v. Wade stuff, and we're not going to dive into that. And they haven't even issued their fucking opinion yet. So,
Have you looked up the what just come out about the what the U.S. is dedicated to Ukraine now and the pushback that just happened?
No, what's that?
I sent you a message about it.
Oh, okay. Let me go.
Yeah,
Let me go look.
we're
Yep.
yeah.
Oh yeah, so the 40 billion
Where the House
okay.
just yeah.
The House did the Senate kick it back, or the Congress?
No, it went through.
Oh, it did. Good. But you said pushback that happened.
Yeah, where where the Ukrainians pushed back. I lost it now. My page switched on me.
Brain push.
No, that's not it.
Yep. So emergency
Where they
funding
pushed them
bill
back from Kharkiv. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So that's where I was talking about in the beginning, where it's basically down to they have like 10 kilometers between them and between the front and the Russian border. They're going to get it. So yeah. Pro-Russian leaders plan to ask Putin to annex Kherson. Zelensky spells out his vision for victory amid caution. Ukrainian counterattacks are pushing Russian artillery out of range of Kharkiv. This had already been happening for quite some... Yeah, this is back on the 7th. So, yeah, I mean, everything seems to be overall going the right direction for them. So, yeah, let's see. Excuse me. All right, so... Guys, I mean, that's all we got. Any questions? Anybody want to talk about something? Now's the time. Let's see. Not gonna lie, it's my go-to news source when I'm sick of looking at depressing news. TMZ. Yeah. Yo, let's look. Yo, let's see what's going on in the world of people who have too much money. Aggressive with Ezra Miller, aggressive with cops, and why? Isn't that the dude who plays like the Flash? Yeah.
Flash and Justice League. Yep.
Yeah.
Got to end on a light note.
Lord Jesus. You know, Jack Harlow, Ray J, and Brandy are siblings. I had no idea. What? Yeah. Yo, this kid, I cannot stand Jack Harlow. He is a simp and a beta, and I'm just going to leave it alone.
I want to throw one out there that's going to get everybody to hate me. But
what?
What about the WWE superstar, the female WWE superstar? I can't think of her name now. That was arrested for murder outside the show.
Oh yeah. That's
What?
fucking crazy. Yeah. So here, yeah, she's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, Hall of Famer. It was drunk driving, wasn't it? She was like multiple times over the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she basically killed somebody in a DUI, and her blood alcohol was like 2. Yeah, like she shouldn't have been
3
able to
times
walk.
over or something like that.
No, 2.80, my dude.
Yeah,
More than 3 times the legal limit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm surprised she wasn't in a hospital with alcohol poisoning. Like, how the hell she was able to even drive, I don't know. It's crazy. Did you cover the Casey White escapee story where the prison officer killed herself when they caught up?
Yeah.
We talked about it. She did officially
did
die,
she?
guys. Yeah, she did actually die.
Yeah.
We talked about it
Oh, I
yesterday.
didn't miss that.
So yeah, she ended up dying from her injuries that were self-inflicted.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Yeah, they
But
said they had
here's a
$90,000
crazy
in
thing, guys.
cash.
Yeah, so here's the crazy thing, guys. So we talked about that briefly and how if you're trying to stay on the run and you have that much money, there are some things you can do, but don't do them. God, we get in so much trouble on this podcast. So here's the other thing, guys. With that being said, you have to understand that they were in the commission of a felony, all right? And someone died in the commission of a felony. So this guy that was facing a murder charge already, he's now facing most likely another felony murder charge. So it's called the felony murder rule, okay? And
But that
not a
must catch you
lawyer.
big capital, wouldn't it?
We'll talk about it in a second. She is a corrections officer, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So a government or federal official died in a felonious act, which is an aggravating circumstance in North Carolina. I don't know about in where they were from, but the felony murder rule is a rule that allows a defendant to be charged with first-degree murder for a killing that occurs during a danger felony. Now, it says a killing, not someone you killed. Or call it anyone who dies because they were involved in your commission of a felony, either as a co-conspirator or a victim. It does not matter, right? You could be with somebody, you go to rob somebody, and the friend you're with shoots one of the people in the head and they die. You just committed first-degree murder. So, no, technically, she never got a chance to officiate her retirement. So, there is a chance that he could have aggravating factors here. And this would fall under the federal felony murder aggravating circumstances.
Which would make it a capital crime,
Yeah.
wouldn't it?
Aggravating factors by state. No, I want the federal. I want the federal murder statute. Okay. Federal murder statute. 18 code, US code of 111, and then let's look for aggravating factors. Oh man, this is a giant statute. We might, I'll have to do some research on it later, but I'm pretty sure. She supposedly, it doesn't matter. She died. It doesn't matter if you killed them, they killed themselves, someone else killed someone. If it's related to the felony that you were in the execution of, okay, that is felony murder.
Yep. Doesn't matter if you had anything to do with it at all.
Exactly. As long as it's involved with your execution of a felonious act that you knew to be criminal. Like, he knew breaking out of prison and running from the cops was a felony. He knew that being a fugitive and breaking out of prison was a felony. And in the execution of that felony, someone died, you just committed murder.
You go rob a bank and somebody has a heart attack and dies, you're
felony murder. Yeah. Felony murder. You're fucked. And now he's facing state charges and felony charges, and they'll boxcar them. He's fucked.
Yeah, he's screwed.
He's never seen the light. Like, he had a chance because in the states where he had done things, there was a limitation to life in prison, unlike here in North Carolina, where you come out with a toe tag. Life in prison, I think, is like 20 or 25 years in the places where he could have been faced. So he had a chance of seeing daylight. Now, once he sees daylight, he's going to instantly go to federal prison and be boxcarred. So he's not getting out of prison. He's going to die in prison now. Fucking
Maybe
stupid.
shorter than he thinks. If it
Fucking stupid. Like, also, guys, you got to understand another thing that's going to hurt him. So, fleeing. So, there's English law includes some biblical doctrine, and we've adopted English law, and it's been codified since. But there's a jury instruction that basically allows the jury to consider you running from the cops or running away as an indication of guilt. So, so it's called CalCrim Jury Instruction 372, Defendant's Flight. If you conclude that the defendant fled or tried to flee, it is up to you to decide the meaning and importance of the conduct. However, evidence that the defendant fled or tried to flee cannot prove guilt by itself, but can be considered proof of guilt. Yeah, actually, she could get attempted murder if they wanted to be dicks. Yeah, she could, if she tried to kill herself and the circumstances would be considered attempted murder, it could be attempted felony murder. Yeah, absolutely. From what I understand it, again, I'm not a lawyer. If you have questions around this stuff, please consult a lawyer or someone with a law degree that is certified by the bar to practice in your state, or if you're looking at federal systems, that's certified to practice in federal court. But as I understand it, actually, you know what? I'll make a phone call real quick. Hold on. We're gonna do a live call and see if he answers. Hold on, guys. So I'm gonna ask. That is a great question. So let's see what Matt has to say about it.
Everybody yells surprise when he answers.
Don't yell surprise. He won't hear you. So let's go hear it. Yeah.
One of these days you'll have to do a podcast on some of the stupidest laws in the U.S.
I know, right? I'm literally calling a lawyer friend of mine for my podcast. I can't believe it.
It's great.
He's gonna be mad. It's like 9 o'clock at night. I get it, bro. I get it.
But you're doing us a service.
I'm doing you a service. Yeah, he's not gonna answer right now. I think he's busy. Okay, we're not going to bother anybody else. We bothered Matt. By the way, guys, if you're ever in North Carolina and you need some legal help, Barton and Doomey Law Firm, they didn't pay me to advertise for them, and this is in no way me advertising. I have no association with them. Matt Barton is a good friend of mine. Barton and Doomey Law Firm, you can look them up. It's Barton and Doomey, Doomy. Barton and Doomey Law Firm. Check them out. They're great peoples. And I trust them with my legal services. So, and Matt Barton has a mind for understanding case law and case doctrine that's like an iron trap. So check them out. Phone a friend, says Little Who. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it's all right. Yeah, I know quite a few of you do live in North Carolina, and they can practice anywhere, and they do. They're great lawyers. If you guys are in the Salisbury area, Rowan County, make sure you check out, Barton and Doomey. That's where they're actually located in their offices. But there's another great lawyer, Todd Paris. He's great if you're doing small criminal stuff. And if you have a big crime, if you've been accused of some real shit, okay? Pete Hoffman, amazing attorney. I would trust him with my life. So, yep. Better call Barton. You know what? I'm going to tell him that because that actually sounds decent. Like, are you in trouble?
Like an ad that we have
Better call Barton. Go ahead, sorry.
It's an ad that we have for a lawyer here in Oklahoma. What's the name of that? It's 188 888. Golly, I can't remember. Jeff Martin. It's Jeff Martin from Oklahoma. Yeah. You'd have to hear some of his ads or see some of his commercials. They're great. They got a jingle with them, and it's called Jeff Martin, and the numbers all the same all the way across the board.
It's Pete Hoffman,
the heavy hitter,
Salisbury.
Jeff Martin.
Yeah, Jeff Martin, the heavy hitter. Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't trust TV lawyers, dude. Like if I see a commercial for them, I'm like, yo, they want something. Yeah, but I'll be there in 4 weeks.
Are the ones I don't trust.
What's that, Jay? Like you'll be wearing for? Are you going to court? You got some court stuff going on? No. So Pete Hoffman is he's a listed capital defender, right? He's good. And he was a software engineer before he became a lawyer. He became a lawyer because he was bored. Okay? Like, he retired from IBM, or I think something like that. So, like, yeah. It's fucking crazy. So, but he does mostly criminal, but he's very skilled also at civil litigation, like custody and stuff. He'll do it, but his price is high, but he's like a sniper. He fucking like scopes in and finds the problem and fucking fuck them up. But nah, Pete Hoffman, he's a beast. But Barton and Doomy, Matt Barton, I was trying to get him onto the podcast this week. But yeah, guys, that's about all I got. Okay, hold on, because I texted him what the question was too. It's my understanding that yes, you could be charged for attempted murder if someone attempts to take their life and is unsuccessful. All parties involved. Holy shit. That's crazy.
I heard what you said. Yeah, it sounds about right.
All right, guys. Well, listen, I have to go. I will talk at you later. I have enjoyed this greatly. You guys have a great night.
Thanks for having me on here, man. I appreciate
Absolutely, man. Anytime. I appreciated the help with the show, and anytime you want to come on, you're welcome to come on. All right, guys. Well, it's been great. Remember, you have intrinsic value just by being alive. I love every last one of you guys, and keep your head up, and we will catch you guys tomorrow. Hit that like button, subscribe, and it's been great as always.